I always say that when I land in a majority Black country, and I've traveled to a few, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Jamaica, Barbados, Botswana, South Africa. Although that was interesting for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
We won't get into that.
We'll circle back.
I always felt this, which is as soon as I step off the plane in one of these Black majority countries, it's like the burden of Blackness is lifted. Because you're no longer Black, you're just a person. In Europe, it's more like the othering. The energy, it's really uncomfortable sometimes. And you're very much othered and you feel uncomfortable and the looks are laced.
Traveling is then not relaxing.
No.
Because you're now steeling yourself for the assault of the eyes and the constant stares and watching all the heads go like this and them go.
We really think about that and we ask those questions when we travel and we actually search up, is this place a good place to go as a Black person, as a queer person, and we book accordingly.
Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Roots and rigor, rigor and flow. Rigor and flow.
One. I always know it's going to be a serious episode when the laptop makes its way from there to the middle of the table. Always.
The researcher has arrived. Welcome.
Welcome. You are well armed, forewarned.
I am forearmed, forewarned, and for real.
Woo! Well, let's get into it, I guess.
I guess so.
Welcome back to Rigour Flow with me, Aiwan.
And me, Tamanda, the show where business meets love.
And culture meets critique.
Yes, ma'am. We are back with a Notes from the Margins episode. So we've got 3 segments today. And the very first one, I am kicking off with a little exploration into, to me, an unknown history of mental health in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. And you're taking the second segment.
Yeah, where I'm talking about lending money.
Money comes up so much in our podcast.
Listen. But yeah, there was a saying that my mum and my uncles from the church used to say when they were bemoaning the British system and how hard it was to get money, keep money, and make the money work for you. Mostly it was that they were sending all of their money to Nigeria, but that's another thing. But the thing they always used to say is, money answereth all things.
You know, I don't think they're wrong.
They're really not wrong at all.
Yeah, so many things anyway.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So in my segment, I'm going to be talking about lending money and the psychology of money.
Oh, yeah.
So that should be an interesting one.
Right. And then in the third section, we are back with another community question. And this time we're talking all things traveling while Black and queer.
Mm-hmm, because let me tell you right now, it ain't easy.
It's wild out there.
It really is.
I, as you know, and rightly pointed out, have brought
it's opening. It's
my
opening.
laptop. It is opening.
It's opening.
In readiness for this, which is one of my favourite topics, as you know, mental health. And in this case, also a little bit about culture, obviously.
Okay.
So I have a question for you, which is, what do you know about mental health services or mental health delivery in Nigeria?
I'm going to be honest. I'm trying to think. I would say I don't know much.
Really?
I think mental health was, to my understanding, was dealt with in the church through prayer and fasting and deliverance. In terms of care, I remember in Nollywood, you would see scenes where the person had gone, they called it gone mad. I know you're not supposed to say that, it's not politically correct, but that's how it was referred to. So this person has gone mad usually because they've done a sin of some sort and they've gone down the wrong path. And then they end up in a mental institution and it looked very bare bones and quite not a place that you'd want to end up.
Right.
That is my very limited understanding of mental health in Nigeria.
Okay. I feel like we were watching something the other day where somebody went to go and pick up their tablets. who had schizophrenia.
That young boy, yeah.
What were we watching?
It was just a reel on Instagram. I had stumbled across it.
Yes.
I think it was this week,
Yeah, you showed
actually.
it to me.
Yeah. And he is schizophrenic, and he was just saying, here's a day in my life as I go to collect medication. And it was so intense because it just took so long.
Yep.
What would take us 5 minutes? Like literally, if I go to the doctor today and he prescribes me something, he digitally sends the prescription to my local chemist, which is a Boots chemist.
Yep.
And literally on the same day, I can go there. And when I go there, I collect that prescription in 5 minutes, 10 if there's a queue, some annoying person who just wants to talk about whatever.
Yeah.
Or doesn't realize they have to pay for their prescription.
Yeah.
And then I collect it and I'll be home within like half an hour.
Yeah.
This guy was there for most of the day.
Yeah, and I think he had to travel quite some distance, didn't he?
He
to
did.
even collect those drugs.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, gosh, like quite apart from the stigma of like having what is called a serious mental health condition, there's also even more pathologizing words, but how do you stay employed when it takes you a whole day to get medication? It's very much like family members I have back home in Botswana who it really can take the whole day to go and get your medication, even when you live relatively close to a dispensary place. That's the only thing I knew apart from this thing I also came across recently, which I wanted to bring today. And this is the case of Dr. Thomas Lambo. And he, in 1954, apparently, created a whole program around mental health treatment at Arrow Mental Health Hospital in, I think it's called Abeokuta. Am I saying it correctly?
Abeokuta.
Okay, there we go. I'll leave that to you.
Well, I'm probably not even pronouncing it. The Nigerians watch and be like, that one is Oyibo.
I know the feeling. But anyway, the point is, this is one of now several such examples that I've heard of where in Nigeria, in this case, rather than locking away people who needed mental health services, Lambo trialed out this new, what was called revolutionary approach, known as the Arrow Village system, where rather than like institutionalizing people, they ensured people who needed a treatment were allowed to live with local families. So there were 200 to 300 odd patients who were apparently housed with local families. And those family members were responsible for providing the daily care and support to that person. And those people also received treatment, not just from medical doctors, but also from traditional healers in that era.
And, and when was the 1950s?
This was in the 1950s, yeah.
So pre-independence.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that was why this became known, or how I came across it, is that there were a number of research breakthroughs around it, which is that the recovery time for those patients cared for in that village was much quicker. There was less what's called chronicity than in their Western counterparts. So
what does that mean?
I guess it means that their symptoms weren't so chronic. They weren't so, intense, I would say. And then they say they had a better therapeutic response overall to treatment. So I presume that means that their recovery and their approach and feelings around treatment were probably better.
Okay.
And so the impact of this was that the World Health Organization picked it up and it became a model that was replicated across Africa, which is why I suspect I've now heard about it, a model similar quite a lot of times. I imagine this is where it was trialled. And this whole thing he created has influenced care everywhere. But the most important thing is that the outcomes for people who had schizophrenia were dramatically better, they found, when the treatment honoured their existing cultural beliefs. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. If you go back to the mental health episode that we recorded in season 1. Do you remember the one?
I do. Religion and mental health, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We talked about my mum's experience of going into a facility and essentially being viewed with suspicion when she referenced her ancestors and things that would have been normal or normative cultural beliefs for us. Those were being pathologized and seen potentially as signs of delusion or psychosis. So I find that like a super interesting study. What do you make of it?
You know what? It comes back to one of the recurring themes that we have in this show, which is that we talk a lot about colonialism and being divorced from our heritage, our culture, our original culture, and that being demonized and stigmatized because the colonizers thought that they were essentially doing us a favor by bringing us their culture and civilizing us, in quotes, and bringing us the gospel of Jesus and so on and so forth. And I find it so interesting that once again, who we were and our cultural practices and our ways of knowing and being and healing are the thing that we respond to the best.
Yeah.
I just find it so interesting that once again, this is the case.
Yeah. Yeah, completely. And I always find it fascinating because, as you know, I've worked within the mental health research space for quite a lot. When I have colleagues who have been born and raised in the West, and they come and they say, you know, we had this groundbreaking research and it shows that human connection is really great for well-being. And I'm just like, okay, really, this is groundbreaking. You know,
for
it's
them, it
no
is.
surprise to me that care and community would work better. It's no surprise to me that not being institutionalized and medicated as the only path for recovery would be the thing that makes sense, right? Like,
absolutely.
And so you have now even the NHS and many people I work with now trying to do more to support community transition and care, which is really needed in this country. And it's like, thank you, but we kind of have been saying this for a really long time.
So it reminds me of when we were talking about Call the Midwife in our 3rd episode of the entire
Yeah,
the
gosh, it feels like a
entirety
long
of
time
it.
ago
It
now.
really does. It really does. How far we've come.
We have.
But I remember one of the things we talked about is how the series deals with this era in British history, in this very working class, quite impoverished neighborhood. And the women there for generations have always given birth at home, surrounded by their own community. It was how their mothers gave birth, their grandmothers, their great-grandmothers gave birth in the places where they live, surrounded by their family, their kids, and maybe a local midwife or an expert in childbirth, right? And then along comes modernization, and they want to get the women out of their homes and into medical facilities to give birth, i.e. medicalizing the birthing process.
Yeah.
And there was so much resistance to that. It was like, no, but this is how we've always done it.
Yeah.
So hearing you say what you said, I find it interesting that we're coming back to what our mothers, our foremothers already knew.
Yeah, and honestly, this is like, we really are coming back, because I know in the last few months, 2 of my friends, both white and raised here, have both had home births and talked about how vastly different their experience of giving birth at home. Both of them, I believe, chose Black midwives as well, or doulas as well in their corner.
Interesting.
Definitely at least one. And they spoke about how vastly different their second birth was to the first birth of their child. They were both on their second child.
Right.
And, you know, I've heard this again and again in the work that I've even done with Maternity Engagement Action in Birmingham. This choice and this ability to have a child at home really makes such a difference for people, because, okay, you can say on one hand it's safer to give birth in a hospital, and I'm sure if you're in an emergency and if you hit trouble, that's true. But for most people, it's a lot less stressful to be in your own environment, to be relaxed, to be calm. And if you can have trained midwives and professionals there, then what a great thing. And like you say, this is a thing we had for many, many years. So
so it follows that if you are going through intense mental distress, where better to be than around your own people? So at least when you open your eyes, you're seeing people that look like you, who talk to you in a tongue that is soothing and calming to you, and that you understand and is familiar to the deeper parts of yourself. You know, healers that speak in the language of your ancestry that goes right to the core of your DNA. It makes sense to be surrounded by what you know.
It's safety, essentially. It's safety.
It's familiar.
In both mental health distress, but actually, interestingly, one of the stark examples I remember working with MEA was the story of a woman, Black woman, who gave birth in a Birmingham hospital, who actually had had a known mental health condition and who was so traumatized and who they refused this home birth to. And I was just like, oh, wow. Imagine
because of her
if she
mental
was,
health situation.
well, it wasn't because of it, but what she described again and again in her account of giving birth was, you know, I shouldn't have had to do this and I shouldn't have had to do this. And she basically said, like many women say, I wasn't listened to and I wasn't heard. And when my desires weren't, you know, responded to. And she was basically saying, if my father had not been there to advocate for me, they would have just badged me as a mad woman, effectively.
Okay.
And so that then played out her treatment in the maternal health space is what the account was essentially saying.
Okay.
So yeah, I think both, you know, we talk about mental distress, but birth can be distressing
Of
as well,
course,
both
it's
on the body
intense.
and the mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, like what better way than to have your people around you?
So with Dr. Lambo and what he pioneered, for want of a better term, are his research findings and his methodologies being used in the West now? Is that what you're seeing?
Well, I believe that the World Health Organization picked up what was done there and used it as a case study, and then the same practice and approach to working with traditional healers and doctors was applied in other contexts in Africa. And I've heard that. This is, as you know, like a topic I'm super passionate about, kind of global mental health. I just feel like we have so far to go to really disentangle and understand what good mental health support and treatment looks like in formerly colonized nations. And obviously Africa and the continent is something I care about, or the diaspora. And if you see the best examples in the research literature, they come from places like Jamaica. They come from places like South Africa. They come from places that have had these traditions of psychoanalytic theory and treatment that's been about decolonizing mental health, so that our cultures, our religions, our ways of knowing and being are centered in it. And of course, you see it in places like New Zealand with Maori people. The West's been better at picking up some of that stuff, I think, as well. One of my dreams in the long term, as you know, is to go back and do much more with people in Botswana back home around the treatment of mental health, which I've spoken about before. And I've looked into the literature, and some of the, like a lot of the stuff we know about modern medicine arriving in Botswana and what it looked like, it's actually white authors going back to the 70s and 80s who frankly know way more about some of the culture and the traditional healing practices than us. But I imagine like there must be so many local researchers and knowledge makers who have been left out of that process. And I really, really deeply want to understand that, because just the stories I hear in my family, in the local village, around how people used to be treated when they had what we would call OCD here, but over there would be treated as a spiritual thing and addressed actually really quite quickly from what I've heard. It feels like there's a lot the world could learn from.
We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what there is to be learned. Because remember, when these colonial nonsense people came to the continent, they burnt a lot. They burnt libraries, they killed our seers, they killed our healers, they killed our knowledge holders, our griots, you know what I mean? Our thinkers, our strategists, our visionaries were all killed, you know? So there is so much.
And you don't even have to kill people physically to do that. You can kill spirits.
Exactly.
You can kill minds.
Exactly.
And there's much to be said about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a powerful thing to bring into the space.
Thank you.
Yeah. For my segment, I want to talk about lending money. And it kind of kicked off with a brilliant TikTok person. Do they call them TikTok persons or TikToker? Me, I don't know. I'm not amongst the youths. TikToker.
I don't know.
So she's a TikToker called UK Thanos.
All right.
She's known for
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, she's the one who is just shaking up the male community in the UK up and down. She's provided a safe space for women to come and talk about the men who have been violent towards them, sexually violent, physically violent, coercive, and so on and so forth. And she basically just puts them on blast. And she does not care. She is probably one of the most fearless people I think I've ever seen. She's so
more fearless than you even.
Oh, I couldn't do what she did. I could not do what she does, in fact. And so she just does what she does, UK Thanos. But there was a post from her that has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
And it was about someone that she lent £20 to. And apparently there was a term within which that money was to be returned to her. And I think it was like 28 days. I mean, I already love the corporateness
The fact that
of
she
this.
has the corporate...
Yeah, the lending terms.
But yeah.
So she lent this person £20. The term was 28 days to be paid back. The person didn't pay it back in 28 days. And then that same person then broadcast on their own, I'm assuming TikTok, that they're now on their way to the airport to go on holiday.
Oh, no.
So now UK Thanos, remember, this is a fearless, bold woman who doesn't give a shit about anything, really.
She sits there talking in her head wrap.
Listen.
And what do you call that?
Her bonnet.
Her bonnet.
Her
She
bonnet.
sits there talking in her bonnet.
And so she sees this and she literally gets up out of her house and goes to the airport to go face to face with this person. And she gets to the airport and says, where's my £20? And the person's like, well, long story, as we'll get to. And she takes the girl's passport and her boarding pass and says, where's my £20? Let's go to the cash point. And the girl takes it. And then UK Thanos is like, you're not just paying me £20, you're now going to pay me interest.
Oh, wow.
Because it was overdue at this rate. And you're also going to pay me for the fact that I've had to come to this airport to get the money, my taxi, everything. And so the £20 turned into £100. And so she was on TikTok showing her £100. She was like, look, I got my £100 from this girl. And it got me thinking.
She's hardcore.
She's hardcore to the bone. Listen.
That's a 5 times return.
Listen.
Damn.
Hey,
Okay.
do not borrow from UK Thanos.
She's an investor.
She is.
She's basically an
she's going to be a
investor at this
VC. That's what she's
She's
going to
in
be.
VC. VC up and coming.
Literally. Ones to watch. But anyway, so it got me thinking. I started talking to you about this and I was just like, this thing of, lending money.
Yeah.
I feel like if I'd have been just a little bit more militant like her,
You could be a millionaire.
I could A, be a millionaire, and B, I would not have gone through the things that I've gone through in the realm of money. Yeah. And then that got me thinking, as we do on this show.
I'm a millionaire.
But it got me thinking, as we do on this show, like, where does that sort of come from? I used to lend money very easily. Liberally. Used to just give. And so it got me thinking, where does that come from? And I think you started to ask me some of those questions.
Yeah, I'm really curious because you say that you used to lend liberally. I've actually seen you lend recently a fair amount.
Really?
Yeah, you might think you don't lend liberally anymore, but
I can't remember.
I don't think you do liberally. Do you want me to remind you?
Who is it?
Your godson and the godson's family.
Oh, yeah.
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 I want to know what your relationship to lending is and how you feel it's changed or believe it's changed, even if I'm seeing something different.
Well, I think my mum was generous to a fault.
Okay.
She gave, not just money, food, our physical space, like particularly growing up in London, our house would always have different people in there. Aunties would come by with their kids sometimes and they would use our house, they would eat our food, they would use our resources, even clothes. My mum would take things that belonged to me and give it to somebody for their child. She was always lending money, even money that she didn't even have, she would lend money. And sometimes I would say to my mum...
How do you lend money you don't have?
Oh, because
meaning that you have £20 left and then you...
No, that you even go and borrow money to give to somebody because you have access to
people who can give you.
Yeah,
because
so
you've given them probably in the past.
This is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, Lord. Okay.
So you're in a world in which sometimes I would just look at my mum as a kid and I'd be like, why'd you just give everything away to everyone? And then we're struggling.
Yeah.
Because as a kid, you can see that.
Yeah.
You can see that, hold on, we're barely making ends meet. Sometimes we're struggling to get food. We're coming home, there's no lights, and there's not even any coins to put in a little machine to make the lights come on, the gas, the this, the that, and then you're still giving. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I used to feel, even as a young child, I can describe it as like a deep resentment about the fact that she just gave away so much, but she was so generous. And I think I remember one time she allowed this woman from Nigeria to come stay with us as usual. The woman ate us out of house and home, just ate everything, every little grain of...
Even that phrase, ate us out of house and home, I remember my mum always used to say, that lady can come here and eat us out of house and home.
So, but it's true, you know, she just ate everything. She slept wherever she wanted to sleep. She just took up all the space. And then her long sob story was, you know, we don't have any money. My husband is in Nigeria. He's trying to get a visa to come here. I'm struggling, this, that, and the other. Tell me why the following week she has gone to Harrods to be purchasing all manner of luxury items to be taken back to Nigeria.
Oh, no.
She was here actually on a shopping trip. But she's telling my mum. And then my mum, who is, as I said, a cleaner, working class, no money, can't put lights, has packed all her food and her money to give to this woman because this woman said that she was broke. And she was struggling. And my mum, being the kind-hearted person she was, responded to that by giving her of what she had.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the woman actually does have. So in that moment as a kid, both me and my mum, in that moment, we had to really look at each other.
Were words exchanged?
Well, we couldn't look at each other because we were in the dark. With the street light shining a light through. Thank God for that.
Just a glinting eye.
I am grateful for that street light that was directly outside our window because very often our house was lit by that street light, that amber light.
That's terrible.
So we had our moment in our dark council flat where it was like, people are liars, they lie. And we have to be careful about how we give out our things. And my mum was very contrite and very sad that she'd been ripped off.
That's actually a brutal lesson. But I mean, I guess sometimes you have to learn the hard way.
Yes, you have to learn the hard way. And so in that moment, I was like, yeah, people really lie. And I think one of the things I discussed with my mum over the years is this idea of the psychology of money. I later on discovered the book, The Psychology of Money, which has been brilliant in helping me really understand not only other people's psychology when it comes to money, but my own psychology.
Yeah.
But at the time we were talking about that theme without knowing what it was called, and the idea that people's idea of what is broke is very, very different. There are some people who in their life, they are not broke if they have savings that cover 6 months of expenses.
Yeah.
Then they're covered. So they're not broke.
Yeah.
If it goes less than that, say they've only got 3 months worth of living expenses saved up, then they are broke.
They're in the red to them.
To them, they're broke. And they will tell you with their whole chest, I'm broke.
Yeah.
Now, if you contrast that with me and my mum,
Yeah.
broke means if I go to the ATM and I put the card in and I type in my PIN and the machine won't let me take out a £5 note because that was the smallest denomination you could take, then you're broke.
Yeah.
Because the cash machine won't give you £5. That means your account is less than £5. You are broke.
But also it sounded like your mum's definition of broke before that was worse. It's like, if I can't go to someone to borrow.
Yeah, I mean, that was like rare.
Okay, so that was because she really wanted to help.
Yeah, exactly. And if she had to. Because remember, she was also a leader in the church.
Yeah.
And she felt that responsibility to take care of the women who were in her house fellowship. So there's a whole other thing there as well. But yeah, broke for us was broke. You haven't got money. You know, I've lived on £5 for a week. I've gone to my bank account and there's been £2 something, £1 something, sometimes nothing.
Yeah.
Sometimes overdrawn when they would even let me have an overdraft.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I really know what it is to be properly broke. So it's really understanding that psychology and understand that when someone comes to you and tells you something, your framing shouldn't be what they say. Your framing should be your situation.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really had to learn that.
Yeah.
It's not every sob story. Can I even afford to do it? It doesn't matter the sob story you're giving me.
Yeah.
Can I actually do
afford?
what it is that you're asking me to do?
Yeah.
And so I had to really start to rebuild my understanding of lending money. And I think the thing I came to was, don't lend money that you can't afford to lose.
Yeah.
Almost just give it and forget about it.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, don't do it.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good good lesson and takeaway to have.
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious how long it took you to get there. Did you have any more loan experiences? Like, what was the worst loan you ever
Okay, well, I was going to say,
made,
because
or-
you just reminded me that actually, even up until this year,
I was going to say, I feel like I have seen some evidence that you can occasionally loan.
Yes,
but I do
I
think you come at it with like, I'm going to expect that I may not get this back.
Yeah, and I do have the same heart as my mum. I think that's the
Yeah,
thing.
you
I have
do.
inherited that.
You
I'm a bit of a
100%
bleeding
do.
heart.
Yeah.
You know, and if I have to give, I generally do like to. I think the worst one was a family friend of ours, and I was in uni at the time. I'd got my student loan. She knew I'd just got my student loan and gave me a long sob story about this money that she needed. And I think it was about £600.
Jeez.
And I
That's
gave
not
her-
a small amount of money when you're that age.
Well, think about this. I was
like-
emulating my mum. I was giving money I don't have. Because remember, that's a student loan.
Yeah.
It's not money that I've gone and earned.
Yeah.
It's money I've got to
and
pay
it's money
back.
you need as well
As a
for living
student.
expenses and everything else.
Exactly. And so I gave her the £600 or whatever it was.
Oh.
And she took the money. I think they threw a party. I'm so sure that following weekend,
Ha!
they had a party. I'm so sure of it. And then I asked for the money back. Nothing. Long story. Then I kind of got a bit firmer because remember, I'm a student at uni and I actually do need the money to do the things that I need to do. And it was supposed to be for a short term. This is where I needed UK Thanos.
You really needed
Because that 600
playbook.
should have come back to me 6,000.
with interest.
Yeah,
Hey,
you know.
you should have been, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So she gave me part of it and promised me the remaining. Until today, as I sit here in 2025, I have not seen that money.
Oh, it's bad.
It's bad.
It's
and that
bad.
student loan, I'm still paying.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. They never end, those student loans.
They really don't. But so that's probably the worst that's kind of maybe seared into my memory.
And is that the one that made the shift for you where you were like, yeah, not loaning like that again?
I started to. Yeah, I started to. Basically, I was just like, anything above a certain amount, I don't loan out.
Yeah.
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 And I started to set those boundaries internally for myself,
Yeah.
you know.
Makes total sense.
So there we go. I don't lend
There we
what I
go.
can't afford to forget about and lose. And I also have a better understanding of the psychology of money. And I focus more on what I can do rather than what the sob story the person's telling me has very much helped me.
Well, here for our family finances.
Listen, the only way is up, baby.
I don't know if I could deal with you lending out our money all the time and never getting it
Listen,
back.
This is one of the perennial things that
Absolutely.
causes problems.
Yeah.
I notice it in my family as a thing.
Yeah.
Is that we lend a lot to a fault.
Final segment for today. We are, as we said, talking all things Black queer traveller. And how has this come about? Well, a couple of weeks ago, we bumped into a good friend of ours, Steve. Actually, he's your friend.
He's our friend.
He's our friend, but you knew him first. He's also a listener, and he said, he was telling us what he thought about our show. And he was like, could you do some talking about traveling as Black queer people, because he himself is a former air host.
Yeah, flight attendant.
Flight attendant, that's what you call them. He's a former flight attendant and he now runs his own travel agency. And he was like, I'd just really love to hear you talk about your experiences traveling as a Black queer couple. So that's what we're doing. Do you want to give any more context to Steve and who he is?
He used to fly with British Airways. He loves travel.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of travel and he's always wanted to work in this space. He wanted to start something that enables queer people to plan their travel in a way that is safe and enjoyable, because even in the 21st century, traveling as a LGBTQ plus person comes with a lot of hurdles.
Yep.
And there are parts of the world that you go that if you're not careful, you could end up in some serious situations.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And in some cases, it can be fatal, and it has been fatal for some people, unfortunately. So actually, queer travel planning is actually a really important thing.
Absolutely.
And we've had quite a few experiences
We
traveling
have.
as queer people, both good and bad and downright ugly.
Yeah, and we'll get into those. But even before we get into the queerness, there is this thing about traveling while black, which
If you
is
add black
also
in there,
absolute minefield. So I actually want to start there.
okay.
What have your experiences of traveling while black been?
It's a tricky one, right? I always say that when I land in a majority black country, and I've traveled to a few, Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Jamaica, Barbados, Botswana, South Africa. Although that was interesting for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
We won't get into that.
Circle back.
We'll circle back. But what I always felt this, which is as soon as I step off the plane in one of these black majority countries, it's like the burden of blackness is lifted. Because you're no longer black, you're just a person, because everybody is black.
Yep.
And now it's down to, do I think you're cool? Are you good at what you do? Do I want to hang around with you? Do you have money? And it becomes other things, but not the color of my skin.
Yeah.
And what I found in countries that are not black majority, so again, I've traveled to quite a few of those, both in Asia and particularly in Europe, is that when you are in those countries, you stand out like a sore thumb. And depending on the country, there can be a mixture of curiosity, as I found in parts of Asia, where it's just like, whoa, who is, who's this? And it doesn't help that I'm also very tall. And I can often be quite mask presenting. And so then it's also like, wow, you're really tall, and are you a boy or a girl? And you're black. And it's just like, whoa. And their heads are like going to explode. It's just like, I don't have a model for this. Computer says no. But then in Europe, it's more like the othering. The energy is, it's really uncomfortable sometimes. And you're very much othered and you feel uncomfortable. And the looks are laced with something
different. I know exactly
do you know
the
what I
thing
mean?
you mean. Yeah.
Which is why when I traveled to Portugal for the first time a few years back, it was strange for me to feel like I was in a black majority nation. I didn't feel black in Portugal. Now, I'm not saying there's no racism in Portugal. No. And I'm sure that the black people in Portugal will certainly correct me. I'm just saying my experience, particularly in the South, but also in the very North.
When we went recently.
I wasn't othered. I didn't get any of those weird looks. I felt completely comfortable. I felt completely at peace. And as a result, I've just gone back all the time. Because you asked me when we first met, why did you always like going back to Portugal? I'm like, because I feel comfortable there. It's the only place in Europe where I really feel at home.
And I did not understand it, honestly, until I came with you. Because weirdly, there's something about the flora, fauna, scenery, everything in Portugal that reminds me so much of Cape Town in South Africa. So it feels really familiar to me in a landscape, just a basic landscape way. But also, I just didn't feel the same thing. And it caught me by surprise because I'm thinking about who could listen. But I have a friend who I used to work with called Anna. She's born and raised in Portugal.
She's black?
She's black, yes. And she told me like how strong the racism there is and can be.
What part of Portugal was she?
Lisbon.
Okay. I've heard in Lisbon, it can be like, that.
And I'm thinking, well, if that's a big city and it's fairly progressive, then there must be things we don't know as visitors just passing through, right? Because quite apart from that, even in anti-racist movement work that I've been involved with in, say, London, where you've had Portuguese people coming and collaborating with London activists, I've heard the same story again and again. Okay. So it must play out in ways we haven't yet encountered. But I'll say this, every time we've been there, I've had an incredible time and I felt very I just haven't felt othered, like you say, in the ways I've felt in other parts of the world.
Yeah, it's literally the closest to Africa I can say in that feeling.
Yeah, I think you've once described it to me as the Africa of Europe or something.
Yeah, I would say that. Did I say the Africa of Africa, or did I say the
Nigeria? I don't
No,
know.
it can't be Nigeria.
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, maybe I said it. It's
like Africa in Europe, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's something. I'm sure you said something like that.
Yeah,
and I was like,
that makes
and
sense.
it's a marked difference, because just going back to what you're saying, I have such strong memories of going to visit my mum in Delhi in India, and also going to Agra to the Taj Mahal. And the biggest thing I remember in this time that is that me and my mum could walk into a shopping centre and people would come out of the shops and congregate again around us just to look and stare and point. So it was like this almost childlike exoticizing and othering.
Yeah.
But in Europe, it feels somehow different.
It's laced.
It's different.
It's laced. We've had experiences. Do you remember when we went to Lanzarote?
Oh, Lord. Speak on that. And then I'm going to talk about Romania.
Yeah, so we went to Lanzarote a couple of years ago, and it was our first time going there. A friend of ours has a little place there and said we could stay there. So we went out to Lanzarote. The house is right on the main strip. So the main strip is like, what can I liken it to? It's like lots of a certain kind of British person goes there.
Is it like Benidorm, that film?
Yeah,
it's like giving
yes,
Benidorm.
exactly. Yeah, Benidorm. So they go there to sit in the sun, getting bright reds, drinking beer, ordering their full English in the morning, and their fish and chips in the afternoon, and their Sunday
some
roast.
Guinness somewhere along the way.
In the evening, in a country that is not England.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what that strip was like. So it's lots of kind of leery lads and screaming and shouting and drunken people and just all sorts of kind of madness.
T-shirtless men with their bellies hanging out while they drink
tight
another
speedos,
pint. Oh, yeah.
And we didn't know anything about Lanzarote, so we kind of went quite open. And so there was that strip. And you and I would walk along that strip hand in hand, and we just get like the oddest looks from the people. So it felt so uncomfortable. But we found our little pockets of beach to chill
It was
on.
like... Yeah, go on.
Go on.
I was just going to say, what was it? You had a metaphor for what that strip...
We called it the Gauntlet.
You walking the Gauntlet. We used to gee ourselves. And that's the thing that people don't realise, is travelling is then not relaxing.
No.
Because you're now steeling yourself for the assault of the eyes and the constant stares and watching all the heads go like this and them go... like pointing with their heads and trying to like make eye contact with someone to look at these like black queer weirdos that are walking down the strip.
Oh God, it was really something else. And so then that was the first thing. Thankfully, we had hired a car.
Yeah.
And we decided to explore the island a bit more. And then we found some beautiful, more remote beaches with people who are more aligned with us.
Yeah.
So kind of like hippies and other weirdos and gays and a few nudists.
There were
thrown in.
definitely some nudists
There
on
were
that
definitely
beach.
nudists. There were people
I
with
was
all their
like,
bits out. And I was like, well, I'd rather be here than on that bloody Gauntlet. Do you know what I mean?
Everybody was free to be free and who they were.
Precisely.
On that beach.
And there were no looks.
There was nothing.
It felt very peaceful and very great. And then the place where we were staying, so my friend's house, was like a little sort of compound with multiple flats there, like a handful of flats, should I say. And we loved it there.
Yeah, it was really nice.
The cats that were there loved us, and we'd feed them, and we were considerate, quiet, no parties, no
calm.
nothing, calm, going about our business and coming back in. We come back to the UK now. My friend goes back out to Lanzarote to do his...
Several months later as well.
Yeah, I think it was like a year later.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He went back to Lanzarote. And while he's there, one of the neighbours, a German couple, call him to one side.
We should say he's a white man.
So my friend is a white man, and this German couple were a white couple. And the woman said to him, I didn't know we were bringing the ghetto here to this apartment complex.
Imagine.
And he told me that story, and he said he was so angry that he literally has cut them out of his life. He doesn't even talk to them anymore. He just blocks them completely because of the vitriolic racism for people that were literally just having a good time for a couple of weeks, minding their business, feeding their fucking cats, I might add.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's what they could find to say. And when he said it to me, it really hurt.
I know
I'm not going to lie.
I
it really
remember
hurt
you
because
were
it felt
gutted.
like we were there that whole time and they were harboring these really hateful thoughts towards us and felt this way about us and were saying things about us that were so untrue because we didn't act in any way like that. And it really hurt. And I know it shouldn't have hurt, but it actually did cut to my heart.
Yeah, I saw, and I could tell you were really affected by it.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons maybe why it hurt so much was we had up until that point this narrative in our head that walking the gauntlet on the strip, you could feel the vitriol.
Yes.
People, you know, as Black people, you're very attuned
Yes.
to when that look means something
We
more.
have that spider sense.
Yeah, and some people don't think, you know, if you're white, you don't understand that maybe, and you think, oh, you've got a chip on your shoulder, but you learn, it's a survival mechanism, of course. You have to figure out what kind of look is this, okay? But what we had felt was when we went back to our friend's apartment, we had a bit of a sanctuary.
Yes.
It felt like a safe space. And we, frankly, had been really quite oblivious and felt quite welcome by the people that lived there.
Yeah.
So to then find out...
that part. That the violent white gaze had been there that whole time. I felt violated.
Yeah, I
really
I
did.
get it. And I saw
nice.
it. You really seemed shook after that
it
conversation.
took me a couple of days. And I'm used to racism. I've experienced lots of it. But somehow that one, I don't know, it was just so out of the blue. And it made me kind of look at the world a little bit different all of a sudden, even though I know that these things exist. But then I started going, I wonder what they think of me. And that, and then that, and then that. And, you know, anyway, a horrible experience.
Yeah, it was not fun. And also, you know, super common. I mean, just a really quick one. I remember being on holiday in Romania with a really, really close friend who's like a sister to me and her mum. And one day I was there getting money out the ATM with them. And I turned round to see this white guy, super excited, you know, looking at me and then coming to me with his phone close to me and his wife's next to him and he's shoving the phone in my hand. And I'm like, oh, he wants me to take a picture. So I don't think too much of it. So I get the phone and I said, yeah, like I'm miming to them, stand together because we don't speak the same language. And he was like, no, you and me. And he's pointing, me, pointing from you to me. And he was like, then does a selfie action. And I was like, flipping Nora, you want to take a picture of me with my afro out. And of course I had been looking at the stares and the pointing and even the laughing. There was overt laughing as we were walking down the street all day. And now suddenly you want to, and I was at that point fed up with it. I said, no way. No way. And he was shocked. And then he started apologizing. And I was like, do you think we're like animals in a zoo? You know, I felt like, you know, Sarah Bartman?
Yeah.
Sarah Bartman was one of these, she was a Southern African woman who was brought over by the Colonials and they basically made a human zoo of her and paraded around because our body shapes are different and she had a bigger bum and blah, blah, blah. And it just felt like, it's like awful. That. And it didn't feel like India where it was curiosity by another kind of brown, but different from us. It felt like, it's different. It's a gaze that towards something that is completely other than me.
And also I want to consume it.
Yes.
I want to take it and I want to own it on my phone in order to then do what with it? What are you going to do with that? Are you going to go and disseminate it? Are you going to go and talk? Like I'm sorry, but it's violence. And so for me, traveling is actually something that we think about a lot. Like when we're booking our travel, we think about that. Like where would it be good to go where we can actually be at peace? Because you travel for holiday. You've already worked how long and how hard. You're burnt out. Yeah. You don't want to go somewhere that's going to contribute to that as well.
Further stress.
Exactly.
Weathering.
So, yeah.
You know.
So we really think about that and we ask those questions when we travel and we actually search up, is this place a good place to go as a Black person, as a queer person, and we book accordingly. So I think people like Moonlight Experiences and, you know, we've got quite a few friends in the Black queer travel space who are doing incredible things for our community.
Yeah, and we've experienced it firsthand. So a little while back, we actually had like this amazing experience where we went to South Africa, in fact, when we got our rings and got engaged. Yeah. And
we got engaged earlier. We actually got the rings to it was our wedding rings and your engagement ring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And custom made by Dear Ray, who are part Black owned. Exactly, so which was something we were looking for.
Yeah.
And on that trip, it just so happened that we arrived there and then discovered that a friend, Aisha, was out there for a South African global tourism convention.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Oh, we love Aisha.
Yeah, she's brilliant. And she, along with her wife, Lexi, run the Queer Travel Club and Moonlight Experiences, the Queer Nomads.
Yeah.
So they're do
deep
lots of...
in the travel space and really representing us as Black queer people, which is so important.
Yeah. And they're probably the best people we could have run into in South Africa.
Yeah, they showed us a good time.
Oh my God. We were like, let's just go and get cocktails on the beach in Camps Bay. Like hours later, we're there doing Instagram posts and walking the beach together.
Cocktails.
I've got some stunning photos of you and Aisha.
Yeah, and I've got some of you.
Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
we ended up on a boat.
Was that the next day?
I think it was that evening.
Was it?
Yeah, we ended up on a boat in Cape Town at this party, a boat party. It was so much fun. We had such a good time. The music was great. The people were crazy and beautiful and great. And
we got into an altercation with that guy.
Oh God. We had a bit of a standoff with one uncle who decided to tell us that Nigeria is second fiddle to South Africa and nowhere near where South Africa is in terms of like film and this, that and the other. And I was just like, my guy, you have picked the wrong person.
Yeah.
But we won't dwell on that.
We won't dwell.
Because overall, it was a brilliant trip.
And they also introduced us to like another incredible person, and Sherry, who runs the Traveling Wakili. And she's Kenyan, does these queer travel experiences in Kenya and beyond.
She's incredible.
She's amazing. And then they introduced us to Coach Kanyi.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
Coach Kanyi. Yeah, and we went up Table Mountain.
With another local guide who they introduced us to, who's Attis Sips Coffee.
Yeah.
Sipokazi, I think her name was. And she took us up Table Mountain. She does loads of tours in South Africa. And it's just like, this is the side of tourism we need to see. Like, African-owned, Black-run, queer... You know, they see us, they know us, you know you're going to be in good hands. And if something goes down, which, you know, you can't control for everything, you're amongst people who are going to be like, yeah, I saw that.
And I've got it.
You're amongst your people.
Yeah, which some things did go down
there
with
were
certain
things.
White South Africans, but that's maybe a story
for another day.
Let's just leave it at that.
We should definitely link all of these people.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So it's thank you for being a part of this Notes from the Margins. Thank you for being a part of Rigour and Flow, full stop.
Yeah.
We really appreciate having you here. As always, if you like what you're hearing and you're enjoying the conversation, please rate us on Apple and Spotify if you're listening on audio. If you're on YouTube, like the video, leave a comment. If there's a place where you can leave a review for the show, leave a review there. And you can also reach out and tell us what you thought about the episode and things that you might want us to talk about in the future. So we really appreciate you subscribing. We thank you so much.